All right, so today I'm going to be going over factoring trinomials. I have a few steps here that I kind of follow while I go through factoring. So step one is factor out the greatest common factor. So if there's anything in common, you're going to want to take that out right away. Then step two is to break down the factors of the first and last term. And so I will show you what that looks like in our first example. And you'll see kind of what I mean by that. Then step three is going to be to check to make sure they add to the middle term when multiplied. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like. And then step four is to check the signs. So let's go to our first example here. And let's factor out the greatest common factor. Now, before I begin with this, I do want to say that, remember, this is a video. So if you need to pause or rewind or do whatever it is that you need to do in order to truly understand the material, rewatch it 3 times, make sure you do that. This is supposed to be used as a tool to help you. So, just keep in mind that you can pause at any time that you need to. So let's factor out the greatest common factor in example 1. So example 1 says 6x cubed plus 12x squared minus 376. And now I know that 6 and 12 have a 6 in common, so I'm going to see if 378, if 6 goes into that as well. So I put 378 divided by 6, and that gives me 63. So I know that a 6 goes into all of these. Now it's really important that we pay attention that it says the greatest common factor. So I want to also take out the variable they have in common. So they have an x cubed, an x squared, and an x. So we can take out a 6x from all of this. So when I divide 6x into each of these, I have 6 divided by 6 is 1, x cubed divided by x is x squared. 12 divided by 6 is positive 2, and x squared divided by x is x. And last but not least, I have negative 378 divided by 6 is a negative 63, and x divided by x is 1, so those just reduce out or cancel out. So now I'm left with 6x times x squared plus 2x minus 63. So I'm going to work with our trinomial here because our lesson is factoring trinomials. And this is still part of our answer, but I need to break down this trinomial a little bit further. So I go to step 2. It says break down the factors of the first and last term. So let's start with the first term. The factors of our first term, x squared. Well, what multiplies to x squared? It's x times x. All right, so today I'm going to be going over factoring trinomials, and I've jotted down a few steps that I follow when I factor trinomial. All right, so today I'm going to be going over factoring trinomials. A trinomial would look something like ax squared plus bx plus c. So trinomial meaning that there are 3 terms and that it is a polynomial. So I do want to point out that this is a video, so you can pause, rewind, slow down, whatever you need to do in order to understand the concept. You can even rewatch it a couple times. This is meant to be as a resource for you. So x times x gives me the first term. And then what multiplies to 63? I like to jot this down for my own reference as I'm doing a problem. So everything that multiplies to 63, 1 times 63, 2, well no, 2 doesn't go into it, so that's not an option. Then I try 3, 3 goes into 63 21 times. I try 4, 4 does not go into it. 5, no. 6 does not. 7 goes into 63 9 times, and 8 does not. So these are all my factors, and the reason I know I can stop is because my next number I would try is 9. Well, I know 9 goes into it 7 times, it's already here. So I just keep going until I get all the factors that multiply to 63. Now, my rule of thumb that I always use is I always try the 2 that are closest together. So 7 and 9 are closer together than 21 and 3. Or 63 and 1, right? So I'm going to use this pair to multiply to 63. So I'm going to try a 7 and a 9. And now I've broken down the factors of the first term, being x and x, and I've broken down the factors of the last term, being 63, which is 7 and 9. And so notice I didn't worry about the signs because the signs are going to come last. Okay, so step 3 says to make sure they add to the middle term when multiplied. What I mean by multiplied is that this middle term comes from multiplying 7 and x and getting 7x. Multiplying x and 9 and getting 9x. So if I were doing FOILing, this is where my middle term would come from. So does 7x and 9x add to 2x? No, they add to 16. But does 7x and 9x subtract to give me 2? Well, yes, 9x minus 7x will give me 2x. So if I make this one a negative and this one a positive, then I get a positive 2x here. So the middle terms, the multiplication of these two and these two will give me the middle term. Now the last step is to check our signs. Make sure we did this right. Does x times x multiply to x squared? Yes. Does negative 7 times 9 give me negative 63? Yes. And we already know that these add to the middle term. So my final answer is not just x minus 7, x plus 9. It has to include that greatest common factor that we took out at the beginning. So my answer here is going to be 6x times x minus 7 times x plus 9. That is my final answer. So if I multiplied this out, if I distributed this 6x, then I took this new binomial and FOILed it with this, I would get this beginning polynomial here. That is how I could check my work all together. Okay. Let's try another example. Let's try example 2. So don't forget your first step is always to take out the greatest common factor. So 9, I know that 1 and 9 and 3 goes into 9. Well, 1, 9, and 3 do not go into 25. 25 is just 1, 5, and 25. 14, 2 and 7, 1 and 14. So there's no common factor that they all have in common. So step 1 in this case, there is none. Step 2, we go to breaking down the first and last term. So our first term here, what multiplies to 9 is 1 and 9 and 3 and 3. And so I'm going to try 3 and 3. So it's not just 3 and 3, but it's 3n times 3n because it has to multiply to n squared, right? And the last term, 14. Try to fix that. There we go. So 14 is 1 and 14 and 2 and 7. So I'm going to try 2 and 7. So step 3, once you break down the first and last term, step 3, let's go up and look at it. It says to check to make sure they add to the middle term when multiplied. So when I multiply 2 and 3, I get 6n. And when I multiply 3n and 7, I get 21n. So if I add these, I get 27. If I subtract these, I get 15 or negative 15n, and that's not 25n. So this combination that I tried, this 3 and 3 or this 2 and the 7, or maybe even both, are not how we factor this. So look at this. I have these other options over here, right? I tried 3 and 3 and 2 and 7. So let me try, instead of using 3 and 3, let me try 1 and 9 instead. So it's not these, and it's not 3n and 3n with the 2 and 7. So let's check. Maybe it's 1n. I need to get a new pen because this pen is not liking me. There we go. 1n and 9n. So 2 times 9 is 18n, and 1 times 7n is 7n. Does 18n and 7n add to 25? Yes, they do if I add both of them. So I add this and I add this. And because there was no greatest common factor at the beginning, this is my answer. Now, do I need the 1 in front of the n there? No, I could just write this as n plus 2 times 9n plus 7. Okay, if I wanted to FOIL this all out or distribute this all out, I really don't like the word FOIL, but just distribute this. N times 9n, n times 7, and then 2 times 9n and 2 times 7, and see if I get the beginning. And I would. So that right there is my answer here. So our last example is negative 32x squared plus 104x minus 84. And I'm going to jump straight into this. So my common factor here, I know 2 goes into all of this. Is there something more? So I'm just going to, first of all, point out this negative. Anytime there's a negative in my leading term, I factor that out. It doesn't matter if these have negatives or not. I'm going to take that out because I don't like dealing with a negative in front. So I'm going to take out a negative. And let's see, what numbers go into 32, that go into 104, that go into 84? 2 goes into all of them. 4 goes into this, and this for sure. How about this one? 4, so that would give me 26. Yeah, so 4 goes into all of these. So I'm going to try a 4 first and see what that gets me. So negative 32 divided by negative 4 is 8x squared. Hope this pen will start working better for me. Let's see, 8x squared. There we go. Oh, I made a mistake there. So I have a positive times, sorry, divided by a negative. That's going to actually flip my sign to be a negative. And 4 goes into 10 2 times with a remainder of 2. 4 goes into that 24 6 times. So I get negative 26x. This pen is not cooperating. There we go. And then negative 84 divided by negative 4 is going to give me a positive 21. Okay. Now I always look at it and see, is there something else I could take out? I don't see 2, 4, and 3 and 7. So there's nothing in common, if that makes sense. So 2 and 4 go into 8, 3 and 7 go into 21. Those don't have any common factors, and 26 is just 2 and 13. So not all of them have the same number that goes into them. So let's break down 8x squared. So what multiplies to 8x squared is, or 8 really is what I should focus on. 1 and 8 and 2 and 4. So I'm going to try a 2x and a 4x. And now what multiplies to 21? 21 is 1 and 21, or 3 and 7. So I'm going to try a 3 and a 7, and I get 28x and 6x. If I add those or subtract those, I'm not going to get 26. So something I can always try is switching where I place this 3 and 7. So I can actually place the 3 here and the 7 here and try that again. 3 and 4 give me 12, and 3 and 7 give me 14. Now those 12x and 14x will give me a negative 26 if I subtract them both, if both of them are negative. And don't forget we took out a negative 4 here, so my answer is negative 4, 2x minus 3, 4x minus 7. And we always check our signs. Does a negative times a negative multiply to a positive? Yes. Does a positive times a positive multiply to a positive? Yes. And do they add to negative 26? They do. So I hope that helped with factoring trinomials. Feel free to rewatch if you need more help. Have a good time.